We have a very unique topic that we're tackling today. Mike, Sharon, I know we talked a little bit about this before I actually hit the record button, but we have a special guest with us coming all the way from Colorado, and her name is Tiffany Rose Goodyear, and she has a company called Syntex. And Tiffany, before we get started, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the history of scenting weddings and sacred spaces. But before we get started, would you share with our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Again, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here to talk to you about my work. My I scent events essentially. Again, the company is called Centex, like Scent Experience. As you mentioned, I'm based out of Colorado, and I got into this work because I own a dessert catering company. And so through that company, I really got to see how touch, taste, and smell can affect an event through desserts. And then I really started focusing on scent and noticed that there is a lack of attention paid to this really important sensory receptor in our industry. So over the past 5 years, I just started scenting spaces and then really honed in on scenting events. And I've gotten to see how important it is and really what it adds to a whole overall event experience. And I recently started doing weddings, and it's been a really fun journey to work with couples and make their wedding even more special by creating a fragrance for them.
Okay, I have so many questions. Mike, I could tell over here you do too. Tiffany, thank you for coming to spend time with us because I think this is a very unique and interesting.
I'm really intrigued. I can't wait to learn more.
Yeah, I
about
can't
it.
either.
I don't know that there's a lot talked about in our area about this. You know, Sharon's a wedding planner and Mike's been in florals and decor for many, many years. Where do we even start? I'm so excited. What what is some of the first things that you share with people about scenting?
Well, I think in terms of just thinking about an overall event experience, so we all have an idea of what like a perfect event is, right? It's it's beautiful to look at. The decor is amazing. The lighting is um is strategically placed. The music, the program, the food, the entertainment, all of these elements that stimulate mostly our eyes, our ears, our taste buds, and through rental decor and things like that, like our sense of touch. But really, nobody's really thinking about like what does your event smell like, right? Even like pondering that question. Sometimes when I give talks on this, I have the audience like take a moment and just to think about like the most opulent amazing event they've ever done. Maybe it's their wedding or their child's wedding, and I then ask them, what do you remember about what it smells like? And mostly they don't have an answer for that. So the work that I do is really like filling that missing element. It's something that's so important when we start talking about fragrances from our childhood or our favorite scent memories. I mean, people get teary eyed talking about their grandmother and the way that she smelled or their mother's favorite dish. So we all know we have this very emotional connection to scent, and yet we don't like strategically utilize it in some of our most important um like special events and life's occasions. So I'm kind of like bridging that gap between our bodies and how we experience the world, not just through sight and sound, and and knowing that we're intentionally creating environments that we want to remember forever. Does that make sense?
Sure.
It absolutely does. Sharon, you go. I know you have so many thoughts.
I have so many thoughts of how, well, I mean, what you're saying is exactly correct. We actually touch all the senses when we do a wedding except for scent. I mean, sometimes the florals have a strong scent, and I love it when they do. But
I know you've made even comments about that.
Yeah.
That people will ask, "What's that smell?"
What's that flower? Yeah.
Yes.
But one of the things I was looking at your website, preparing for today, and one of the things I loved was on your website. I saw a story where you incorporated the favorite scent of someone who had passed away that was very special to the couple, and so that scent was there through their whole day. So I'm sure they felt like that person was there with them for the whole day. I think that's just, I'm used to the memorial pictures or the memorial table, but man, what a cool way to really remember and bring to life someone that's important to you, that can't be with you on your wedding day. I love that.
Well, and I think we try to create that experience after the wedding too. So, just to clarify again to your audience, sometimes I'm so deep in my work, I forget what people don't know. I don't scent people. I don't do personal fragrance, which I think is another important
Right.
aspect of your wedding and choosing your perfume and what you're going to wear. So I really do scent like the ballroom or the reception or the ceremony. And um, one of the things that we do for our wedding clients is we gift them a little reed diffuser of their fragrance after the day. So again, it's like looking at your album or listening to your first dance song, but really scent just transports you back to that moment. And so not only can you incorporate, as you were saying, experiences from your past, things that you love, things that you've done as a couple, scent wise into your wedding, we also really encourage you to like live that memory through scent after the experience as well. And once you make that connection, one of the things about creating a truly immersive experience is that it actually stimulates your brain more. So if you tell a story using all of your senses, you're going to remember it more. Your brain is more stimulated. So again, if you can add that to everything else that's already going on that day, having years later, even although I haven't I haven't had this experience yet because I'm relatively, this is a recent business, but my hope is in 10 years that my couples can come back to me and say, we smelled it again. We smelled
I
our
love
wedding
it.
again, and it just transported us right to that moment.
I love it.
So, Tiffany, let me ask you, when you're marketing this to couples for their weddings, what's the first step what's your marketing thing to get people to come and use this product?
So, in fact, the reason why I'm in Aspen is because I did a scent workshop for a bunch of the planners and the venues. So I think it really has to be a buy-in from other event professionals. Again, I'm small, I'm relatively new to it's a new concept. So the people that use me are people that have experienced it. And so that is part of my marketing is to get in front of planners so that they can have a scent experience. I kind of go as deep as possible with them. In fact, our workshop was to create their own custom diffuser. So they really got to learn about how fragrances are made using middle notes, top notes, and base notes, and again, why it's important, and just creating a relationship between the planner, the venue, some other vendors, and their own sense of smell. And then once they've had that experience, it's easier for them to mention it to some of their wedding clients as an add-on. And I find that it's people that have a good relationship with their sense of smell, that are like people that scent their homes. They're more likely to be my client than somebody who doesn't like candles. So it's people that have a relationship with scent and then are introduced to it usually through their planner or their venue. And then the process is I like to come in towards the end of the event or wedding planning process. I want to know obviously the venue. I want to know the timeline. I want to know the food that's being served, the cocktails, the decor that they've chosen, every single element that's going on this space, when and where. And then we have a consultation with a couple, learning about their own personal relationship with scent. Like I was saying, if they scent their homes, what they wear, what their scent memories are. And then me and my team, we narrow down fragrance options and then ship them samples so that they can choose for their actual event. And there's so many. I mean, they say you can smell a trillion different fragrances, a trillion different smells. So even unlike color, if you think about there's three primary colors, and like every color you've ever seen, there's even like more fragrances in that. So it's our job to really narrow that down to make it easier for the couple. And then what we do, which is different than other scent companies, is we service the event. So we're like your DJ or your caterer, your lighting company, and we come in and we staff it, and we have commercial equipment that we use to waft fragrance throughout the room. And we control it in a way. So we usually, for weddings, we'll bring it down during dinner service. There's not a lot of interference between like the food and a scented space. It's not the same as having like a candle 18 inches away from your face and a steak 18 inches away from your face. That is not a pleasant scent experience. It's more atmospheric. And then I feel like I'm getting off track. So that's how it actually sort of like from start to finish. Again, we come in during during the planning phase, but after all the decisions have been made, and then we're there at the events, ensuring that like every moment that we want fragranced is a touch point where it doesn't interfere with other things that are happening at the wedding.
And Tiffany, sorry, Mike, it is great what you're saying about the process. In my mind, I wasn't even thinking about the equipment and like you don't want something to interfere with dinner or I just wasn't even thinking about that. But as a scent person, Mike, I'm a candle person. I love some Scentsy, and have for many years. But when I think about that, I think about when spring comes around and you want that uplifting, of the change of the seasons. And when she was sitting there talking about it, like it can elevate the mood. It can really, sense can really affect a lot of things. So, Tiffany, walking us through this process, that's really great information because I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe that you walk around and spritz a little something here and a little there. And for those of us who don't know about this, that's great to share. Mike, I'm sorry, you were going to say
Well, what I was
something.
going to say is you mentioned that you come up with the scents that you want to use. How does the couple decide on what scents they want to smell through the wedding? Or is that something that you take care of?
So again, I'm glad that you brought up the seasons because that is one of the things that like time of day and season play a big role in how we start to narrow that down. I met with a couple recently. They're getting married here in Aspen and it's a September wedding. And a September wedding could go summer or it could go fall, depending on where you are in the country. And again, like the colors that she chose. And so she's doing a lot of like blues and whites. And so in my mind right there, we're not going fall. We're going more uplifting, more like citrusy, lighter fragrances, because that, I mean, in your mind's eye, you're thinking not pumpkin spice latte with a like white and blue china pattern. You know what I mean? Those just things
Right.
don't, they just don't make sense together. So I think season plays a huge role in it. And then again, their personal relationship with scent. So they really love this fragrance by Le Labo, which is very masculine and moody and has a lot of sandalwood in it. And they're doing a late night reveal. So we talked about doing something a lot more like sexy and masculine and moody in this one particular area that's going to be a different decor outside of the white and blue summer fresh overall look and feel of the event, and then we pair that fragrance for that. So it's all those details that help us narrow down the options that we give them. And again, that happens during a discovery call.
So you can have more than one or two scents throughout the whole reception.
Yep, and it's a great way. Again, if you think about, we use other cues through our senses all the time to separate spaces, right? So it's another way to sort of delineate one space, one activity, one portion of an event to the next. I mean, it's just sort of the same. It's the same, like you can do it through furniture. You flip a room, you know what I mean? But you can also do it by changing the whole smell of the space as well, because then you truly feel like you're in a different space. And something that Sharon, you mentioned earlier, is that all weddings do smell. All weddings, all spaces, all venues, every room we walk into, even space, they say, smells metallic. Everything it does have smell. And we've all walked into that venue, whether I know I've walked into some venues in the deep south that are just have that musky, moldy, they're older properties. Here in the mountains, we have these cabins and these ranches. I mean, some of them are working ranches. There's a smell of horse, but it smells there. And the thing is, it smells, it's just not strategic, right? So it's about thinking about the space smells anyway. So it's just another tool in a planner's toolkit to say, how can we use this other sensory receptor to change the space to match all of the other things that we're
I
already
absolutely love it. I work in a lot of really old buildings.
Historic.
Where we're located, historic, yes. But honestly, anybody that has listened very long knows I'm kind of blunt. I think they smell like dirty mop water.
They
When they're
probably
not
Yeah,
do.
safe.
just put it out there, Sharon.
I mean, they do. They smell
Don't
dirty.
beat around the bush. Yeah.
They smell like dirty mop water. And I'm always like, what floral can we bring in here to kind of like, so I'm loving this idea. It's a whole new thought for me.
She's open.
Yeah.
Since this episode started, I can see like her wheels turning.
Yeah, it's
over
really
here.
been a whole new thought for me. I love it. And I love that you can change it, because I'm picturing, like you were saying, something light, floral, kind of for ceremony or for dinner. But when that dance floor opens up, I think you would go more musky, sandalwoody, exotic, sexy scents. So I loved it. I love the thought of this. And I'm one of those girls that every season I change every scent in my home. My husband makes so much fun of me because I have fall candles and I have winter candles and so on. So
That's normal, Sharon.
he thinks it's ridiculous.
Well, it's normal. And that's yes.
But anyway, so I totally get it. I love that they can also pick their own scent. And then,
But also, Sharon, to tag in what you're saying, have some guidance
yes,
with finding that
so
scent
that
that
would be
fits in.
overwhelming.
Well, as much,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's so many different ones, so it's nice to kind of have that guide too.
I love it.
So I want to circle back around for just a minute because I don't know anything about the history of scenting. Do you all know that?
Nothing.
No, I just buy my candles.
Okay, but I bet Tiffany can give us a little insight on that.
So, so historically, like scenting spaces and scenting public spaces, happened like, I mean, we're going way back, like 2000 BC. And during like a sacrifice. So if you're sacrificing something to your gods, some of the oldest scent equipment in existence are altars. And as part of that sacrifice, you're essentially, that's when incense was created. You're burning, you can like burning like sage, you're burning fragrant like herbs and spices and woods as like an offering to your god. In fact, the word inspire means to breathe in. And so there's a lot of scent research about like being in a scented experience really like is bringing you closer to God. In the Judeo-Christian religion, if you think about like the fragrant oils, the three kings on the day of the Epiphany come to baby Jesus. I mean, this is cultural knowledge that we know in our country, carrying frankincense and myrrh. Well, gold was the other item that is often mentioned, but some historians say it's actually blue lotus, which is another fragrant material. And again, if you think about these are the gifts or fragrant material that they're bringing to the Savior that came, and that is so powerful. And in the Catholic tradition, it's still used. If you go to a Catholic mass, frankincense and myrrh are still utilized in every one of those sacred ceremonies. So there's traditions in Judaism, Hinduism, Islam of using fragrant oils in rituals and ceremonies. And then even in like Roman culture, they used to have a lot of the emperors and things of bacchanals, like all these like crazy parties. And one of the things that they say that they would do is they would actually dip birds into rose water and have them fly over the guests in order to fragrance a room. And there's again in the Middle East, there's a lot of like scenting in public spaces. And if you go to somebody's home, like they offer you a fragrance and you have a little intimate ritual with fragrance when you're entertaining at home. So there's a lot of historical examples of how fragrance is used in sacred religious ceremonies. It was used in parties historically. And it is interesting that like somehow it got lost, like fragrance, like shared fragrant experiences in our current culture just aren't a thing. But historically, scent was utilized, I think, a lot more to bring us closer together and to have more shared experience. And it's actually interesting, COVID has changed the scent industry a lot too. There's a lot more money in science and health and medicine going to scent and how important our sense of smell is, because as we'll all recall, initially that was one of the symptoms is to be anosmic. And so we did prior to COVID, in some ways it was really good for me and my work, is that we didn't talk about scent at all. But when people lose their sense of smell, it's more common for somebody to get depressed or commit suicide if they lose their sense of smell rather than losing any of their other senses, because it's so important and so vital to who we are. And yet we don't think about it and talk about it as much culturally. So when you lose that, it can be very, very devastating. I feel like I'm getting off topic, but scent is so important. We just don't talk about it enough.
I was reading a little bit, preparing for today, like I was saying, and I was really interested to learn that some businesses use scent. I mean, it's a very powerful thing. They use scent to entice you to buy their product. I was telling Mike and Christina before we started recording, my boys are both in their 30s now, but when they were teenagers, Hollister, the brand Hollister was a big, big thing. And when you walked into the Hollister store, that store had a scent. It had a signature. You knew you were in the Hollister store with that. I just think it's really interesting to look at how powerful scent can be. And the thought of scenting an event, I love it. I think it's so cool.
Are you sitting here thinking like, this kind of makes
I'm
complete
thinking,
sense?
could I get her to come from Denver to Louisville?
I bet you can talk about that when we're done with this episode. But okay, she was just talking about different places, and I already said I'm a Scentsy person, and no, I'm not getting paid to say that. But what I use at our home versus at our office, I don't normally have the same thing going in both places. And what she said about, you're in a different environment, it has a different vibe to it. I think this is awesome.
Well, before today, I never really thought about the sense of anything. I mean, yeah, we have candles. No, really, we have candles that we do. But you mentioned earlier about a lodge. We did a wedding this weekend up in Indiana, and it was like an hour and a half away. And as soon as I walked into this lodge, this is what it brought to my mind. It was so funny, just like on not Pretty Woman, Dirty Dancing.
Oh.
And when they go up into the lodge, and that's what I pictured. Well, Teresa comes out and she goes, I thought of Dirty Dancing when we was in there. And it was just because of that scent that was in there. And we both thought the same thing. Not we knew that Dirty Dancing smelled that way, but the whole atmosphere and that smell just made us think about it.
My grandparents had a wood-burning stove. They lived on a farm and had a wood-burning stove. So anytime I walk in a venue that has that, I know my old Kentucky home, State Park, some of their, they have that wood smell, and it always brings me right back to sitting in my grandma's living room, like always. So it's very, very powerful, and I love that. I hope this takes flight. I really think it's a neat idea. Do you have to?
What do you think? I think you mean is like takes flight in this area. Like you're ready you're ready to have it involved in your events.
Yeah, like this summer.
I knew that's what you meant.
I'm also, as a planner, I'm thinking logistically. The equipment, is it small? Do you have to set a certain place for it? Does it make a noise?
So okay, I'm going to take this back to what you mentioned, and it'll get to where we are with the equipment. Scent marketing. Scent marketing is a thing, and there are companies out there that do it really well. It's not something that I personally do, because there are companies out there that do it well. And while my background is in marketing, again, my focus for this is in events, because I'm in the event world. So the equipment that's available on the marketplace right now is for a hotel lobby, which is a sort of set it and forget it situation. It's on a timer. We've all walked into a Westin, a Starward. Their white tea time fragrance is very similar to you mentioned Hollister. Abercrombie and Fitch is another one, right? Those are culturally fragrances that people know. And it is powerful. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it. It is their scent brand. So the equipment that is on the marketplace is built for that. And that is the equipment that we currently use. It's about the size of a bread box. It's powerful equipment. There is such thing as too much scent. There is such thing as, again, this is why we service the event. You're paying for it. You better smell something. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of different factors within the room, the HVAC, the guests moving, like scenting a dance floor is very different than scenting a meeting where everybody's sitting down. I am in the process, which I never thought I'd be doing, of working with a team of engineers to design equipment specifically for events. So
That's awesome.
in the near-ish future, hopefully I'll be able to, the goal is to sell the equipment and the fragrance oil in a way that works for events, which isn't there won't be a lot of spillage. It'll be a lot of easy cleanup. And I will teach other professionals how to do this work as an add-on to what they're already doing, if they're already at the event, to sort of overcome like what is the current execution of it, right? And it's me or one of my team members coming on site, like using the equipment. It's not a huge power draw. It does make a slight sound, but you literally have to even if I had one in this room and we were talking, it wouldn't be intrusive. If you're sitting in a room and meditating, you will hear it.
Okay.
It does like sort of turn on and off. And the equipment that I'm developing too will also you'll be able to attach it to rigging, and you'll like right now, everything kind of, again, it's just built for it's not built for the work that I do because nobody was doing this work. So it'll be built really specifically for us in mind and the planners and the other event professionals, and it'll tie into there. Again, like what currently is on the marketplace works great, but in the future, I'm hoping to really like my personal goal is to be on the event checklist. I want, when you go through your checklist, I want scent to be on there. And maybe it's not for everybody. I mean, I'm glad I ended up with 2 scent ladies here because you are my target audience, which is probably why you are interviewing me.
Mike is too, though. I mean, you are too. You're a candle person.
I am, yeah.
You're a candle person.
Perfect.
Yeah.
A trifecta.
I can even see where the flowers don't have a smell that I could see using this product along with our flowers. Now, I don't know if that's something like a perfume that we spray on them or what it could be, but I mean, I can see
adding it to
it, floral.
Well, and I didn't actually, my work started in corporate, and I only started doing weddings really during COVID, which I really love doing because the emotional relationship, as we talked, between like your grandma's wood burning oven, like the emotional relationship and scent, it's actually scent, emotion, and memory are located in the same places in our brain. There is a reason why these things are so strongly tied. I didn't do a lot of weddings prior, and we didn't do a lot of floral fragrances, but now that I'm doing more weddings, we do a lot more florals, to your point, to talking about scenting the flowers. And flowers just aren't bred to smell. They're bred to look beautiful. So it's funny because we do events and people are like, oh my God, these flowers. Or I've done a lot of Christmas events and they're like, these pine trees, I've never smelled it. And I'm like, well, it's not really pine trees, but like, but it might as well be, right? So, any old how, I forgot what I was saying earlier, but yeah, I want to be on the checklist. Again, that is my goal. And we're not for everybody. And maybe you shouldn't scent every single event experience, but you should at least consider it. You should walk into a space just like you do with everything else to create your whole vision and your whole vision board, to also take a breath and say, what is this event going to smell like?
Well, one thing I will say, I have actually heard people not use certain venues, reception halls, whatever you want to call them, have not used them because of, well, when I walked in,
right.
Whatever that answer is. And I'm not going to say that they're all smell musty or this, that, and the other.
Dirty mop water.
Dirty mop water. But to realize you can make your own experience, because that's what it is. She said immersive experience. You can decide what you want your guest, and I do understand what she's talking about. It is one of the primary senses. And I am so glad that we talked about this on our podcast, because I think this could open up an opportunity for people when we talk about uniqueness and having their own event. You know, a lot of people we talk to have 4 or 5 people in their friends group that are getting married, and they're all looking for this uniqueness factor and everything. This is something that even if all 4 or 5 people in the same circle had their events scented, the likelihood that they're all going to end up with the same scent, what a way to really put that stamp of uniqueness on
I'm
it.
just thinking, I just booked a client, and the groom, we're kind of based in Kentucky,
Right.
and here bourbon is a big old deal, and
A big
a big old deal. But anyway,
It's called bourbon country, Sharon.
the groom's family has started a bourbon candle company, and they're very entrenched in the bourbon industry. And he said, how can I bring bourbon into the wedding without just serving bourbon?
Ooh.
Hello, we can make it smell.
Hello,
like
Mike. Are you following?
I mean, I'm having all kinds of ideas here. Yes.
Well, I mean, it sounds like this has been a very productive episode. Mike, I think you're going to need to get with Tiffany. Sharon, I think you're going to need to get with Tiffany. And I have a feeling a lot of our audience is going to be doing research, looking for information. And honestly, I wasn't exactly sure where we were headed with this topic until I started to read more about it. But Tiffany, I can't thank you enough for not only opening up us, the 3 of us, but also our audience to the opportunities that are available with scent.
Well, absolutely. It's a pleasure. It gives me great hope in having launched this second business, and especially in the event industry after 2020. So thank you for your time and your willingness to, expand the work that you do. And I'm sure it's already beautiful, and you are making the most amazing events for your clients. And so thanks for having me, and taking the time to learn about scent. But it sounds like, again, scent is already important to you. You just didn't think you could use it in this way.
To open up that bridge of other possibilities on the other side of it, it's something I've got to be honest, I never even had thought about.
I think as a planner, anytime I can have another tool in my toolbox to make that wedding
And she
unique,
has a toolbox, let me tell you.
Literally a toolbox.
to make that wedding unique and special and not just another cracker box wedding. That's what they're paying me for. And I'm really thankful to have met you, and I'm super excited for you because I think this is going to take off.
Well, thank
So
you.
before we completely close out, one of the things that stood out to me on one of the pages of your website was about sharing a unique, connective, and engaging experience. And I think that's a note to end on. For those that are listening, this is something for you to consider or to start to research. Maybe you haven't heard about it. So, Tiffany, as we wrap up, will you share just a little bit about how people can connect with you, learn more about this? We really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Of course, it truly is my pleasure. And please, you can follow along the business on Instagram. We're at scenting_events. My personal is the Centec, so it's all about scent too. And I will continue to share. I will be launching a new social media just program, or I'm going to implement sharing tips and tricks about like why to scent events, how to scent events, and the results of scenting events. I don't think I talk about it enough in a public space. So again, thank you. So I'm going to continue to do that on the Instagram page, and then my website is scent-ex.com. If anybody has any questions, I do scent consulting too. So I know not everybody can afford to have us fly out to your venue and do the event. And we're small and we are growing, but there are ways to incorporate scent into all things. And whether that's a bathroom or a powder room or the groom suite or the bridal suite, there are small touch points. Scenting an entire ballroom, it's a lot, and it's not inexpensive, but there are smaller opportunities to use scent at your events in different areas too. And I'm launching a kit, a design your diffuser kit so you can create your own diffuser. In fact, after this program, I will send you one so you guys can do it. And
Oh, I'm
it's
so
great
excited.
for a bridal shower activity. You can get your girlfriends together and again, really just have a fun scent experience. So that is another option that we'll be launching in the next month or so.
That's awesome.
How fun is that?
I have a feeling Tiffany may be back around at some point in time to follow up on all of this. And I'm so glad that you mentioned something about the bridal suite. Sharon, I really could see the benefits of lavender, and I don't know really what I'm talking about. Yes, but that was calm, relaxing space when there's so much going on with hair and makeup. So, and I can't wait to connect with Tiffany because I would love to share more information out, even more so than this episode, with our audience. So it sounds like the three of us will be connecting with you. But thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Mike, Sharon, I learned a lot in this
Yes,
episode.
thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank
for
you.
being
It was
here.
awesome.
Thank
For
you.
all of our
Truly.
listeners out there, you know that we love your feedback. We can't wait. Make sure to tag us on social media, send us a DM, or if you want, go to our website and hit the contact button. We would love to hear your feedback. Had you ever heard of scenting? Is this something brand new for you? We love to get your feedback in. Sharon, what else do we like them to do?
If you like what you hear, go on and leave us a
Glowing 5-star review. Tiffany, thank you again so
Thank
much.
you so much.
All of our
Thank you.
audience, until next time. See ya.